भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Hare Krishna. Chapter 2, Divinity and Divine Service. Text 1. Vyasa uvacha iti samprashna samhrashto Vipranam Ramaharshanihi Pratipujya Vachastesham Pravaktum Upachakrame.
Gurudeva Sutta Goswami, the son of Ramaharsana, being fully satisfied by the perfect questions of the Brahmanas, thanked them and thus attempted to reply.
Text 2. Sutta Uvache Yam Pravajantam Anupetam Apeta Krutyam Dvaipayano Virahakatara Ahujava Putreti Tanmayataya Taravo Abhinedus Tam Sarvabhuta Hradayam Munim Manato Asmi.
Sorry, I think she's been muted. Panitanaya Mataji, could you unmute yourself? Thank you.
His father, Vyasdev, fearing separation from him, cried out, "O my son, indeed, only the trees which were observed in the same feelings of separation echoed in response to the bereaved father."
Sorry, Panitanaya Mataji, would you be able to read that translation again? Because unfortunately you are muted.
I was muted. Srila Sutta Goswami said, "Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the great sage, Sukadeva Goswami, who can enter the hearts of all. When he went away to take the renounced order of life, sannyas, leaving home without undergoing reformation by the sacred thread or the ceremonies observed by the higher castes, his father, Vyasdev, fearing separation from him, cried out, 'O my son, indeed, only the trees which were absorbed in the same feelings of separation echoed in the response to the bereaved father.'"
Text 3. यः स्वानुभावम् अखिल श्रुति सारम् एकम् अध्यात्मदीपम् अतितिरसतां तमोऽन्धम् संसारिणां करुणयः पूर्णय गुह्यम् तं व्याससूनुम् उपयामि गुरुं मुनीनाम्.
Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto him, the spiritual master of all sages, the son of Vyasdev, who, out of his great compassion for the gross materialistic who struggle to cross over the darkest regions of material existence, spoke this most confidential supplement to the cream of Vedic knowledge, after having personally assimilated it by experience.
Text 4. Narayanam namaskratya Naram chaiva narottamam Devim saraswatim vyasam Tato joyam adhirage.
Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the prasadity of Godhead, Narayana, unto Nar Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasdev, the author.
Text 5. Munayah sadhu prashto aham Bhavadbhirlokamangalam Yat kratah Krishna samprashno येनात्मा सुप्रसीदति.
O sages, I have been justly questioned by you. Your questions are worthy because they relate to Lord Krishna and so are of relevance to the world's welfare. Only questions of this sort are capable of completely satisfying the self.
Text 6. स वै पुंसां परो धर्मो यतो भक्तिरधोक्षजे अहेतुक्य अप्रतिहता ययात्मा सुप्रसीदति.
The supreme occupation, dharma, for all humanity is that by which man can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self.
Text 7. वासुदेवे भगवती भक्ति योग प्रयोजितः जनयत्य अशुवैराग्यम ज्ञानं च यद् अहेतुकम्.
By rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world.
Text 8. धर्मः स्वनुष्ठितः पुंसां वैश्वकेष्ण कथासु यः नोपादयेद्यतिरतिं श्रम एव हि केवलम्.
The occupational activities a man performs according to his own position are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of the personality of Godhead.
Text 9. धर्मस्य है अपवरज्ञस्य नारथो अर्थयोपकल्पते नारथस्य धर्मकान्तस्य कामोलाभाय हि सम्रतः.
All occupational engagements are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for material gain. Furthermore, according to sages, one who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification.
Text 10. कामस्य नेन्द्रिय प्रीतिर लाभो जीवेत यवता जीवस्य तत्व जिज्ञासा नार्थो यश्चेह कर्मभिः.
Life's desires should never be directed toward sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation, since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth. Nothing else should be the goal of one's work.
Text 11. Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti parmatmeti bhagavan iti sabdhyate.
Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan.
Text 12. Tachradhaddhana munyo jnana vairagya yuktaya pashatya atmani chatmanam bhaktya shruta grahitya.
The seriously inquisitive student or sage, well equipped with knowledge and detachment, realizes that absolute truth by rendering devotional service in terms of what he has heard from the Vedanta Shruti.
Text 13. Atah kumbhe dvija shrestha varnashrama vibhagasah swanushthitasya dharmasya samsiddhir haritoshanam.
O best among the twice born, it is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's own occupation according to caste divisions and orders of life is to please the personality of Godhead.
Text 14. Tasmad ekena manasa Bhagavan sattvatam patih Shrotavasyakriti tavyascha Dheyah pujaschа nityada.
Therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the personality of Godhead, who is the protector of the devotees.
Text 15. Yad anudhyasina yuktaha karma granthi nibandhanam Chindanti ko vidastasya ko na kuryat katharatim.
With sword in hand, intelligent men cut through the binding knots of reactionary work, karma, by remembering the personality of Godhead. Therefore, who will not pay attention to his message?
Text 16. Shushrusho shraddha dhannasya Vasudeva katharuchihi Syan mahat sevaya vipraha Punyatirtha nishevanat.
O twice-born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva.
Text 17. Shranvatam swakatha Krishnaha Punyashravan kirtanaha Ridya antastohaya abhratrani Vidhunoti suhratsatam.
Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, Supersoul, in everyone's heart and the benefactor of all the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted.
Thank you so kindly, Shriya Mataji. You recited a
As an
Sanskrit.
Krishna Govinda.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Shriya Mataji. Recited the translation, the Sanskrit translation so nicely. And thank you, Punitaya Mataji.
Thank you.
Thank you,
I'll
Prabhu.
Thank you. So I wanted also 3 volunteers in a minute because the purport for this is very long. So there's 3 long paragraphs. So if you are happy, just raise your hands so I could ask you to speak in a little while. Yeah. So this particular verse that we're reading today is Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 1. Sorry, beg your pardon. Canto 1, chapter 2, verse number 12. Yeah. Tachatadanamuna jnana vairagya yuktaya pasyanti atmani chatmanam bhaktya shruta grihitaya. The word for word translation, that, Shradadanaha, seriously inquisitive, Munayaha, sages, Jnana, knowledge, Vairagya, detachment, Yuktaya, well-equipped with, Pashanti, see, Atmani, within himself, Cha, and Atmanam, the Paramatma, Bhaktya, devotional service, Shruta, the Vedas, Kritaya, well received. The translation, the seriously inquisitive student or sage, well equipped with knowledge and detachment, realizes that absolute truth by rendering devotional service in terms of what he has heard from the Vedanta Shruti. So we got Mita Ben. Do you want to unmute yourself, Mita Ben?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Do you want to read the first paragraph?
Yes, thank you, Prabhu. The absolute truth is realized in full by the process of devotional service to the Lord, Vasudeva, or the personality of Godhead, who is the full-fledged absolute truth. Brahman is his transcendental body, bodily effulgence, and Paramatma is his partial representation. As such, Brahman or Paramatma realization of the absolute truth is but a partial realization. There are 4 different types of human beings: the karmis, the gnats, the yogis, and the devotees. The karmis are materialistics, whereas the other 3 are transcendental. The first class transcendentalists are the devotees who have realized the Supreme Person. The second class transcendentalists are those who have partially realized the plenary portion of the Absolute Person. And the third class transcendentalists are those who have barely realized the spiritual focus of the Absolute Person. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita and other Vedic literatures, the Supreme Person is realized by devotional service, which is backed by full knowledge and detachment from material association. We have already discussed the point that devotional service is followed by knowledge and detachment from material association. As Brahman and Paramatma realization are imperfect realizations of the absolute truth, so the means of realizing Brahman and Paramatma, i.e. the paths of Gnana and Yoga, are also imperfect means of realizing the absolute truth. Devotional service, which is based on the foreground of full knowledge combined with detachment from material association, and which is fixed by the oral reception of the Vedanta Sruti, is the only perfect method by which the seriously inquisitive student can realize the absolute truth. Devotional service is not, therefore, meant for less intelligent class of transcendentalists. There are 3 classes of devotees, namely first, second, and third class. The third class devotees, or the neophytes, who have no knowledge and are not detached from material association, but who are simply attracted by the preliminary process of worshipping the deity in the temple, are called material devotees. Material devotees are more attached to material benefit than transcendental profit. Therefore, one has to make definite progress from the position of material devotional service to the second class devotional position. In the second class position, the devotee can see 4 principles in the devotional line, namely the personality of God, his devotees, the ignorant and the envious. One has to raise himself to the stage of a second. It's just gone. Second class devotee and thus become eligible to know the absolute truth. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mitaben. That was really nice of you. If I could just politely ask all the devotees who are not speaking, if they could mute themselves so it doesn't disturb the other participants. I think somebody's working away in the kitchen. I can't see everybody on the screen, so please try and mute yourself if you can. Next is Bhagavati Mataji. Do you want to say the next paragraph, Bhagavati Mataji, if you mute yourself? Sorry, just make sure I'm at
Can
the
you
right.
hear me? Yeah, I mute myself. Yeah.
Okay, I'll just get the paragraph ready. Starting from third class devotee. Yeah, could you read that? Okay.
Yeah, I can. Hare Krishna. A third class devotee, therefore, has to receive the instructions of devotional service from the authoritative sources of Bhagavata. The number 1 Bhagavata is the established personality of devotee, and the other Bhagavatam is the message of Godhead. The third class devotee, therefore, has to go to the personality of devotee in order to learn the instructions of devotional service. Such a personality of devotee is not a professional man who earns his livelihood by the business of Bhagavatam. Such a devotee must be a representative of Sukadev Goswami, like Sutta Goswami, and must preach the cult of devotional service for the all-around benefit of all people. A neophyte devotee has very little taste for hearing from the authorities. Such a neophyte devotee makes a show of hearing from the professional man to satisfy his senses. This sort of hearing and chanting has spoiled the whole thing, so one should be very careful about the faulty process. The holy messages of Godhead, as inculcated in the Bhagavad Gita or in the Srimad Bhagavatam, are undoubtedly transcendental subjects, but even though they are so, such transcendental matters are not to be received from the professional man, who spoils them as the serpent spoils milks simply by the touch of his tongue. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Bhagavati Devi. Next is Sipra. Do you want to read the last paragraphs? Is that pronounced rightly, Sipra?
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna. A sincere devotee must therefore be prepared to hear the Vedic literature like the Upanishads, Vedanta, and other literatures left by the previous authorities of or Goswamis for the benefit of his progress. Without hearing such literatures, one cannot make actual progress. And without hearing and following the instructions, the show of devotional service becomes worthless, and therefore a sort of disturbance in the path of devotional service. Unless, therefore, devotional service is established on the principles of Shruti, Smriti, Purana, or Pancharatra authorities, the make show of devotional service should at once be rejected, and unauthorized devotee should never be recognized as a pure devotee by assimilation of such messages from the Vedic literatures. One can see the all-pervading, localized aspect of the personality of Godhead within his own self constantly. It is called Samadhi. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Shipra Mataji. Thank you, Anba, for reciting that nicely. So I'll just read the translation once again. A seriously inquisitive student or sage, well equipped with knowledge and detachment, realizes that absolute truth by rendering devotional service in terms of what he has heard from the Vedanta Shruti. I'll quickly recite the invocation prayers. By all means, join in if you want to. Mama Yana Timrandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmanitam Yena Tashme Shigurve Nama Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shivashikamitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopishwara Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sati Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Mancha Kapa Tarubhyasha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitana Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Charu Swami Namane Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I thank you everybody for joining in today's Srimad Bhagavatam, verse 30th of March. So today there was so much discussions in the particular purport by Srila Prabhupada. And it's one of, as you know, many of these verses in this particular chapter are very important. I will be going through some of the verses that we spoke already from previous classes. So here today, we talk about the different purpose of points of different kind of devotees, first class, second class, third class devotees. But the important point of this particular translation and this verse is two important, I suppose, knowledge and detachment are the two qualities that a devotee must have. But that knowledge is not just ordinary knowledge, it's got to be the absolute knowledge, the absolute truth. And detachment is such an important thing as well. Detachment is not just necessarily just detaching from other persons, but it's actually more specifically to do with material detachment. When you acquire so much wealth, when you acquire so much material objectives or material desires, then that hinders your devotional service, that path to leading you to successfully come to Krishna's lotus feet. So importantly, when you come to the devotional stage of life, it's important to detach yourself from mundane activities, sinful activities, anything that is not favorable to Krishna consciousness. In the Nectar of Instruction, it's nicely explained by Rupa Goswami, the different kind of detachments that one should have and the 6 attachments that you should have for Krishna. The knowledge as well is very important as well. It's not just any old knowledge, but the knowledge which is actually pertaining to the absolute truth. So here, there's in the purport, it mentions about the 3 aspects of the absolute truth. One of the aspects is the Brahman of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or sometimes known as the effulgence of the Supreme Lord. It's also recognized as the impersonal portion of the Lord Brahma, where the Mayavadis actually believe that the Supreme Lord doesn't actually have a person, or is not a personality, but it's actually an effulgence, just basically a light. And that's why when you hear the stories of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he's actually discussed about atheists, he discusses about the so-called Mayavadis who don't believe in Krishna as a supreme person who has a form, but it's actually just an effulgence. Just like the way that you see the sun, you may see the sun ray, and you may see the effulgence. They don't actually see the sun itself, the object, the sun, but they see the effulgence that's emanating from the sun. So this says 3 aspects of the absolute truth: the Brahman, Paramatma, and the Bhagavan. Is a natural, an important aspect. In the previous verse, I'll just see if I could go back 1 verse, or rather, let me just go to this. It's verse number 11. This particular verse was also described in one of the chapters of Bhagavad Gita, the 3rd line of text 11. Brahmati, Paramatmiti, Bhagavaniti, Sabjyati. So these are the 3 aspects of the absolute truth. So how could you recognize if somebody's a Bhagavan or the Supreme Bhagavan? Would anybody like to answer that question? Okay, maybe I could make it simpler. What are the 6 aspects of the or recognized qualities of the Supreme Bhagavan?
Wealth, strength, renunciation, beauty. What is it?
Beauty.
Beauty, I said.
Fame, knowledge.
I've forgotten the 2. Fame, strength, wealth, beauty,
Knowledge.
renunciation, and knowledge.
Certainly
All
renown.
attractive. All attractive.
Thank you. You're getting all the right qualities: strength, fame, beauty, opulence, renunciation, and wisdom. So when a personality has all these 6 qualities to its fullest, is recognized as the Supreme Bhagavan. So somebody may have so much wealth, somebody may be very attractive, somebody may be very knowledgeable, somebody may have a lot of strength, but that is also temporary in this material world, because no one can be attractive indefinitely. No one can have so much wealth indefinitely. Eventually, when you die, that wealth is passed on to somebody else. And similarly, wisdom, knowledge, fame, beauty is all limited to the material, mundane vision. But for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, when he has these 6 opulences in full, he's actually recognized as Bhagavan. So sometimes, there are questions that, well, how do you know that Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Person? you know, what makes you think that he is the Supreme Person. But when you read the Krishna Leela story, it actually tells you a wonderful story where a so-called king claimed to be Lord Vishnu himself, claimed to be Krishna himself, and he came on the battlefield with two sort of forearms, you know, trying to impersonate Lord Vishnu with a conch, disc, lotus, flower, a lotus and disc. So he was trying to impersonate Lord Krishna himself. But what did Lord Krishna do? He just taught him a lesson and chopped his arms off and taught him a lesson to say, you know, you mustn't impersonate the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in this particular 6 qualities of the Supreme Lord, there is a particular verse by Parashar Muni in the Puranas. Parashar Muni, he's the father of Vyasadeva. He actually explains what is the meaning of the Bhagavan. So if I could just read this to you. The Sanskrit word Bhagavan is explained by the great authority Parashar Muni, the father of Vyasadeva, the Supreme Personality who possesses all riches, all strength, all fame, all beauty, all knowledge, and all renunciation is called Bhagavan. So if you could just bear with me 1 minute. It's a beautiful verse. I wrote it many years ago, and I could just recite it to you. Aishvarasya samgrasya viryasya yashaha shriyaha jnana vairagya chaiva shanam bhagavan iti ganam. This is from Vishnu Purana 6.5.47. Bhagavan means who possesses these 6 qualities: opulence in full, all riches, all strength, all influence, it says on here, all wisdom, all beauty, all renunciation. So it's a beautiful verse that you could try and memorize. I'll just carry on with the purport with the particular verse on the explanation of Bhagavan. The Sanskrit word Bhagavan is explained by the great authority Parashar Muni, the father of Vyasadeva, the Supreme Personality who possesses all riches, all strength, all fame, beauty, all knowledge, and all renunciation is called Bhagavan. There are many persons who are very rich, very powerful, very beautiful, very famous, very learned, and very much attached, but no one can claim that he possesses all riches, all strength, etc. entirely. Only Krishna can claim this because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No living entity, including Brahma, Lord Shiva, or Narayan, can possess opulences as fully as Krishna. Therefore, it is concluded in the Brahma Samhita by Lord Brahma himself that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No one is equal to or above him. He is the primeval Lord, or Bhagavan, known as Govinda, and is the supreme cause of all causes. So I hope that gives you an explanation of the purpose of Bhagavan. I'm just carrying on for the rest of the purport explanation. Look, Srila Prabhupada actually mentions about knowledge as well. But that knowledge is not just ordinary knowledge. It is actually knowledge about the absolute truth, the absolute from the Puranas, from the Bhagavad Gita, from the Srimad Bhagavatam. And there are 2 types of Bhagavat. Does anybody know who the 2 types of Bhagavat are?
Person Bhagavad and person Bhagavad.
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much. Yeah, there's the person Bhagavat and the Bhagavatam itself. They are considered to be non-different because they are representatives of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here, Srila Prabhupada actually goes on deeper to talk about the person Bhagavat. It says that you should try and recognize the person who is actually authorized, who's following the scriptural injunctions, who's from authoritative parampara, scriptural authorities, and it's actually recited the Bhagavatam not for show, not for mundane purposes or for some material profit. He goes on to mention about sometimes there are professional reciters who actually recite Bhagavatam more for entertainment, more for personal sense enjoyment, more for just for the purpose of just trying to earn an income. But a real personality will never use the the spreading the knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead for his own personal use or for his own benefit, or to gain some fame or recognition, that is considered to be sahaja or very impersonal. So Srila Prabhupada condensed this kind of preaching. Preaching should be done from one who actually sets an example, and Srila Prabhupada is a wonderful example. When he came to the West, he didn't actually have any money at all. He came without any sort of any support, any help whatsoever. Basically, single-handedly, he actually established Krishna consciousness, amongst Westerners who are completely alienated to this philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Even as Indians, we struggle reciting some of the Sanskrit verses or even understanding some of the scriptural knowledge given in the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. But here, Srila Prabhupada was so kind, so merciful, that just because of his personality, the Westerners who are hippies, who are drug addicts, who are into all sorts of illicit sex or intoxication, they were simply attracted to the personality of Srila Prabhupada because of his purity. And Srila Prabhupada, because of his nature, of his friendliness, his ability to preach in such a way that they could accept him, they became very much attracted to him. Srila Prabhupada used to feed them prasadam, and they became attracted to prasadam. Srila Prabhupada used to do kirtans, and they became attracted to the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. So in this way, Srila Prabhupada set a wonderful example, not by asking for money, not asking for donation. He simply asked them, please surrender to Krishna. You are all representatives of Krishna. You've all forgotten Krishna. Please give up your sinful activities and take this very rare form of human life and accept Krishna as your life and master. So further on, Krishna, in the purport, he actually mentions, Srila Prabhupada mentions there are 4 types of human beings. Now, does anybody remember the 4 types of human beings? I'll give you a little clue. I'll go to the purport, see if you can read it here. Okay, somewhere along here now. Can anyone find it? Okay, I can't find it myself. Oh, here it is. The 4 types of human beings. He mentions the karmis, the jnanis, the yogis, and the devotees. Okay, so karmis are generally the materialistic people that we see every day, day-to-day life. So generally karmis are very much in the mode of ignorance. From the Bhagavad Gita, those of you who join the Bhagavad Gita chat sessions every day over the last 2 or 3 years during the lockdown would understand that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was explaining to Arjuna the different kind of yogas: Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Hatha Yoga. Karma Yoga is where you actually work for the privileges of Krishna and his devotees. You may not be such a knowledgeable person, a transcendentalist, but you work in favor, and you're offering that fruits of your work to Krishna himself in the form of either remuneration or a particular service that you may have experience in. Say, working in the building construction, you could help build a temple for Krishna, or if you're into management, you can help manage projects for Krishna. So that is considered to be karma yoga. The jnanas are the ones who actually want to learn about Krishna, but they are very much into studying the Vedantas, but they do not take the essence of the the conclusion of the Vedas. They basically think it's a form of rules and regulations, but those rules and regulations are the basis of the devotional service itself. Without rules and regulations, you cannot perform the devotional service. So those rules and regulations are very important. But for the jnanis, those rules and regulations, they feel that is the highest level of love to Krishna. But Krishna then goes on to talk about the yogis who are very deep into being detached from the material world, just completely focused on meditating on the Supreme Lord. But even once again, although they may be transcendentalists in one way, but they have not fully realized the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But yet the devotees who are very completely humble and devoted to serving Krishna in any form or shape. They could be a rich devotee, it could be a poor devotee, it could be a knowledgeable devotee, or it could be one who doesn't know much knowledge, but his duty is to perform devotional service. And that devotional service comes in many forms, of which hearing and chanting Shravanam Kirtan is the most important. And further along in the purport, it mentions that through the oral reception or Shruti, it is important to actually understand, just like all you devotees have joined into classes on a daily basis, you're actually hearing this Krishna Katha. This Krishna Katha is considered to be non-different from Krishna. The holy name is considered to be non-different from Krishna. It is the Yuga avatar for Kali in this particular age. So when you see the name, form, qualities of Krishna, they are considered to be non-different. They are considered to be incarnations of Krishna himself. So in the 9 processes of devotional service, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam, the 2 most important are considered to be Shravanam and Kirtanam, hearing and chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada further explains in the purport there are 3 kinds of transcendentalists. The first class transcendentalists I just highlighted for you. Are the devotees who have realized it's a Supreme Person. The transcendentalists, first class devotees, are those who have realized the Supreme Person. And how have they realized the Supreme Person? They have realized the Supreme Person through the mediator of a bona fide spiritual master by following the scriptural authorities. We recite that every morning in the our friends in the Grovashtakam prayers. Shaksha Daridve Nashabasta Shastra Tastata Bhavya Devasadip. The spiritual master is considered to be a confidential servitor of the Supreme Lord because he has seen the truth, and this is actually acknowledged by all spiritual authorities. So he's not just making up some mundane philosophy on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he's actually taken that same knowledge which is passed on from Lord Brahma down his disciplic succession. The second type of transcendentalist is a person who has partially realized the portion of the absolute person. It's not fully realized that the absolute person, Krishna, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the third class transcendentalists are those who barely realize the spiritual focus on the absolute truth, partly because they have not completely understood the full understanding of who the Supreme Personality of Godhead is, maybe because they are sort of mixed with Sahaja philosophy or other sort of Mayavad philosophy. But the person who is actually surrendered or follows the scriptures according to the Krishna's instructions will slowly progress on from the third class, second class to first class devotees. And that is very important in our own sort of development in Krishna consciousness as well. Okay, so there's 2 different types of instructions. One is Vedanta, Shruti, the oral reception, and the other one is Smriti, which is written text. So we mentioned earlier on the Bhagavad is no different from Krishna himself because it is incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But it's important to understand, like in the, in 5,000 years ago, when Lord Krishna descended, of course, all the pastimes of Lord Krishna and all the other pastimes were actually written from an oral sort of perception from one sort of authority to another authority. Just like a spiritual master, when he actually initiates you into like the first position of your initiation ceremony, and then finally into your Brahman initiation, it recites the Brahmana mantra. In the days of old, they used to recite the Gayatri mantra by just oral reception, by quietly whispering into the ear of the guru to the disciple. But of course, nowadays, we don't have the knowledge or the intelligence or the memory to remember a lot of these verses. but in the days of old, the devotees, the sages, they were able to understand and hear, like when Sukadeva Goswami was reciting the narration of the Srimad Bhagavatam to Sukadeva Goswami. Sukadeva Goswami happened to be there during that the presence of that recitation, and he kindly recited the same exact word for word transcendental truth which Sukadeva Goswami spoke to Sukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj, who recited to Shaurika Rishi and all the other rishis at the Dhammasaranya forest. So oral reception is very important. By hearing, by taking that knowledge of the absolute truth, allows us to digest or blossom the seed within our heart, the creeper within our heart, to blossom into devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I hope that's clear to everyone. And also, we talk about, when we mentioned in the particular translation about knowledge and detachment, the other important point about detachment is when we recite the holy names by chanting daily japa, there are 10 offenses that we must try to avoid. And does anybody remember the 10th offense? Like while reciting the chanting of the holy name of the Lord? The 10th offense is when one still has attachment for material objects itself. It's considered to be an offense, because when you actually, I mentioned earlier on, that when you actually have maintained material attachments, your desire to serve Krishna or fully surrender to Krishna is not wholeheartedly 100% there. You still have attachment and a material perception. You know, sometimes you may have a nice house, nice TV, or nice friendship, or may not be so Krishna conscious. And that bad association with non-Krishna conscious devotees could be the culmination of you directing your spiritual life or your material life. So it's very important that to chant the holy names, to follow the 10, or to avoid the 10 offenses against the holy names of the Lord. The 10th offense is to maintain material attachment, even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. So we must try and avoid this material attachment. Sometimes you may say, well, I have a computer, it's material, but if you use it in Krishna service, you may use it for work, of course, that's natural. But if you use it for Krishna service, like the way we use in our computer right now, to display the particular Srimad Bhagavatam, or the verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam, although it's nice to be in person, we're using the Zoom facility to be able to interact with one another. So sometimes the verse itself mentions Yukta Vairagya, although here it's actually said backwards Vairagya, Yuktaya. Yukta Vairagya means detachment from material activities, but all using all anything that you have materially for Krishna's pleasure. It can be anything. You could have a nice car, you could take it to go to the temple and back again. You could take it to travel, take devotees to different places for their particular need and spiritual activities. So there's different ways of using material activities or material objects for Krishna service. Then later on, Krishna talks about the 3 types of, Srila Prabhupada talks in the purport about the 3 types of devotees. Now, does anybody remember the 3 types of devotees? I'll give you a little highlight here.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Govinda Prabhu.
Nishta,
Uttamadhikari, Madhyamadhikari, and Kanishtadhikari. Is that the one you're talking?
Yeah, that's right. Sorry, was that?
Mataji.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, that is the 3 different types of devotees as well. So also down here, it explains the 3rd class devotee receives instruction of devotional service from authoritative sources of Bhagavad. The number 1, which we mentioned, Bhagavad is the established personality of a devotee, and the other, Bhagavatam, is the message of Godhead. 3rd class devotee therefore has to go to the personality of devotee in order to learn the instructions of devotional service. Such a personality of a devotee is not a professional man who earns his livelihood as the business of Bhagavatam. So earlier on, someone mentioned about the 3 types of devotees. Yes, sometimes the 3rd class devotee thinks of himself as a devotee and thinks others aren't devotees himself, but they think he's actually a qualified person. Whereas an Uttamadhikari, actually, he's a self-realized devotee, the highest form of devotee. He actually thinks that he's not a devotee at all, but he thinks that everybody else is a devotee. And a pure devotee never recognizes himself as a pure devotee. But Srila Prabhupada preached to the West, he never claimed to be a pure devotee. He never claimed to be a so-and-so guru. He was actually very humble, and he said, look, I am just following the instructions of my spiritual master. So those three aspects of devotees are very important to understand, and we have to try and distinguish to what level we are. Are we like a Uttamadhikari, Madhyamadhikari, or forgotten the third one? Can you remind me the third one again? Kanishta. Thank you very much. Yes, Kanishta-adhikari, Madhyamadhikari, Uttamadhikari. So we have to try and avoid being a Kanishta-adhikari or Madhyamadhikari, but try and develop our love and taste by serving the other devotees. That's the best way I find, by learning to serve the devotees, getting their blessings. I recall one time there was a wonderful devotee. She was such a wonderful book distributor at Soul Street Temple. And I said, I mean, can you give us an idea how you are always so successful in distributing books? And the simple answer was that she said that I used to ask for the blessings of the devotees. Bless me that I could be successful in book distribution to please Srila Prabhupada. It's as simple as that. My dear devotee, please bless me that I could become a devotee. Please bless me that I could cook nicely for Krishna. My dear devotee, please kindly bless me that I could sing nicely for Krishna. My dear devotee, please kindly bless me so I could dress the deities of their lordship nicely. So without the blessings of the devotees, we can never advance in our spiritual life. So it's so important that we also ask for blessings. In fact, one thing I forgot to do is ask the blessings of all of you so I can speak on the topics of this particular verse today. So please kindly forgive me and ask for your blessings so I could speak to nicely on behalf of Srila Prabhupada and my Guru Maharaj. So that's very important, understanding the three types of devotee. Third class is a neophyte devotee, is knowledge, but is not detached from material world. He worships the deity as well. Now, this is quite important. Now, would anybody understand or give a reason why this is considered to be a third class devotee? Worshipping the deity?
Sorry, Krishna Govind, my understanding is that I know that person do understand that Krishna is there, but Krishna also in everybody and everything. So that they of course in future by practicing they will come to Uttamadhikari one day. But at the beginning, they think they are the devotee and nobody else is devotee, and and only Krishna is only in the deity form, nowhere else. I think this is my understanding. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Palika David. I said yes. That's certainly one of the reasons. The other reason I could say to you is that many times when we worship the deities for personal reasons. We worship for personal desires. We worship to free ourselves from certain bondage or difficulties we may have. As you remember in the verse from the Bhagavad Gita, there are 4 types of devotees who worship me. Once again, I hope you don't mind if I ask everybody, so try to make it interactive. So I'm not.
The one in whose distress, then one is in need of money, one is in Gyani, and one is what's the fourth one? Artha, Gyani, and Jigyashu. The last inquisitive.
Yes, absolute truth. One is searching for absolute. So the 4 types of devotees are one who's in distress. We all always have distress, you know, even the devotees have distress, but they just pray to Krishna. Krishna, this is a token reminder of this material world. This is a token reminder of my karmic reactions. Whatever I've done, you know, I deserve this punishment, because he sees anything that comes in his way as a reminder in Krishna's service. The other person is one who desires wealth. We all desire wealth to be happy in our life, but we realize that having wealth isn't the answer to being happy. You see so many wonderful people who become rich, but they just end up having lost so much, losing their family, people cheating them. Recently, I was at the bookstall on Sunday, and somebody had approached the table, and he was quite quiet at the beginning. So I sort of had a conversation with him, and I said, "Oh, how are you? You know, how are you doing? Is this your first time, or was there any particular books that may be of interest to you?" And then within 5 minutes, ended up like 45 minutes discussing with him. And this particular man he came from Kenya himself many years ago, and he went into the business of building construction, and he had clients who are celebrities, you know, football stars, and he did contracts, building contracts bigger than the Haveli, big projects, hotels, and he has his own sort of 20 apartment in Wales, which he looks after. But now he said he's retired. I'm 63 years old. My family, some of my brothers, my sisters, they cheated me of my money. Some of my own children, they don't want to know me anymore. And I'm come to a point of retirement. I don't know what to do in my life. So, of course, you know, we all go through that particular phase. What do we do with our life? What is the purpose of life? It's a question that we always ask ourselves every single day. And of course, our purpose in life is to come closer to Krishna's lotus feet so we can free ourselves from this material world. But of course, the pure devotee thinks wherever I am, whether the hellish worlds or the spiritual worlds or material worlds, you know, I just, as long as I can remember Krishna, that's happiness. But importantly, this particular person, I try to encourage him, please come, do seva, and hopefully he will come, you know, when he comes, there's an opportunity to try and encourage him, because yes, he's made so much money in his life, he's made so much contacts, you know, immaturely, but now he's come to a point, well, you know, I have all this, but what do I do with my life? So our life is meant, you know, to free ourselves from this birth, old age, death, and disease. And by doing so, by the established principles, as it mentions down here, Shruti, Smriti, Purana, Pancharatra. So sometimes when we talk about third-class devotees, just going back to that point Palika Mataji mentioned, that sometimes it could be seen that we see only Krishna as a deity form. We don't see anybody else. But as you become more and more attracted to Krishna, actually you see Krishna in so many wonderful ways. Just like the beautiful verse in the Bhagavad Gita, know that of all opulent, beautiful, and glorious creation is but a spark of my splendor. So everything that you see, this material manifestation, is but just a spark of a splendor. This, the rising sun, the splendor of the moon, the taste of water, you know, the transcendental everything that we see, you know, we see it as a manifestation of Krishna's energy. So further on, when you become more realized in Krishna consciousness, when the Pancharatra is actually developing a love and taste for Krishna in his deity form as well. So there is another verse, which I can't remember from the top of my head, but it actually mentions that when you become a devotee, as just like we mentioned about the Bhagavat and the Bhagavatam, it's just as important that you actually become knowledgeable in Srimad Bhagavatam, and at the same time have a deeper feeling and love for deity worship as well. So they go side by side. So at the beginning, one may be attracted to deity worship, but they may not be attracted to the knowledge, because I have to face it, even I find sometimes reading the Bhagavatam, it's very deep, especially when it's the verse is glorifying the Supreme Lord. I have to keep reminding myself, come on, wake up. These are wonderful, beautiful verses glorifying the Supreme Lord. These are the feelings that we should be having for the Supreme Lord. Because of our lack of intelligence, especially in my case, we don't know how to glorify the Supreme Lord. So we are so fortunate we have these beautiful verses from the Vaishnavacharyas where we can sing, glorifying the Supreme Lord, his personality, his pastimes. So when you become more deeper into Krishna consciousness, when you become more serious in Krishna consciousness, the deity form of Krishna becomes manifested with you, and you actually see the form of deity non-different from Krishna himself. So whether it's wood or metal or whatever material object, even if it's a picture of Krishna, you actually see the form of Krishna. And you see, when you come and take darshan of the Supreme Lord, you see the lotus, beautiful face of the Supreme Lord. And it's mentioned that when you take darshan of the smile of the Lord, it takes away thousands and thousands of reservoirs of tears that's accumulated of tears of reservoirs that's accumulated over many, many lifetimes. So once again, I'll mention that again. When you take darshan of the supreme smile of the Lord, it evaporates the reservoirs of tears which have accumulated for many, many, many lifetimes. We always have some difficulties in our lives. We have tears, we have anxieties, we have happiness tears, we have sad tears, frustration tears, anger tears. But you can imagine over many lifetimes, if you put that together, and it accumulates like, big reservoirs of lakes of tears. But by taking darshan of the Supreme Lord, seeing his beautiful smile, evaporates those tears. So, I'll just come to an end now. I think also, just one point earlier on, which was really important. We were mentioning about, what Srila Prabhupada was mentioning about those so-called professional recitators in Srimad Bhagavatam or in his transcendental knowledge for sense gratification rather than trying to develop the love and taste of Krishna himself. We should be very, very careful not to actually listen from such a person, because it mentions in this last sentence, from that professional man who spoils them, this is the spiritual knowledge, as the serpent spoils milk simply touched by his tongue. So when you hear Srila Prabhupada's chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra in that purport, it mentions about that a person must avoid listening to anybody reciting the holy name or the recitation of the Supreme Lord. It's as poisonous effect as milk touched by the serpent or the lips of a serpent, which causes a poisonous effect. Now, can somebody explain that if Krishna is the Supreme and is pure, how can it have a poisonous effect? Would anybody like to say why we should avoid this?
Hare Krishna, Krishna Govinda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Palika Devi, yes.
My understanding is that they are just professional. They're trying to earn money by reciting. Actually, they haven't got bhakti in their heart. They don't have love of Krishna. I think that's why that's why Srila Prabhupada says that the spoil is like a serpent, putting the poison in it. So I think because they don't have bhakti, they're not really attached to Krishna. They just recite and earn money. So I think that's why. I don't know whether
Yes, certainly. That's one of the main reasons. Palika Devi, thanks. Yes, when we actually hear these people, we don't know 100% if they're actually telling us the truth or not. I know I shouldn't mention this. I know it's confidential, but anyway, some devotee was actually initiated first and second within ISKCON, and he was very, very devoted to serve in ISKCON. But later on, he's still a Vaishnava, but he decided to go to a different sampradaya, to the Vaishnava sampradaya, follow the sampradaya of Ramanuja Acharya, where Ramanuja Acharya, well, some of the sampradaya, they don't actually believe in Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda. They feel that they're just ordinary great personalities rather than incarnations of the Supreme Lord. So sometimes you can end up listening to these reciters, but you don't know if they're authoritative. They could be misleading you, misguiding you. And as a result, it could have a poisonous effect where you actually want to surrender yourself to the Supreme Lord, but it actually has an opposite effect where you go away. But your desire to the Supreme Lord is by your desire to completely say to Krishna, Krishna, please give me the intelligence, please give me the inclinations, please allow me to follow you in the right path. Another example was somebody who was very much into another sort of Hindu organizations, and they had such a wonderful organization, but they couldn't understand the philosophy itself. They couldn't understand the philosophy because when they actually read it, it didn't make sense that so-and-so personality was considered to be a god. But how could it be a god if it's not actually mentioned in the Shastras or any sort of scriptures? So, but when they came to Krishna consciousness, they actually came to the understanding that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because the explanation, the clarity, all the scriptures actually detailing that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, everyone else, like Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Indra, are all representatives of the Supreme Lord. And they actually went on to explain about who the material manifestation is, who we are, the spiritual manifestation, and so forth. So it's so important that when we do follow or read, we should also read with the inclination of an authority as well, not just on our own, that we think that we have the intelligence to understand everything ourselves. So thank you so much for listening, and please forgive me for any mistakes I've made. I haven't had this opportunity for 2 or 3 months, so I had to brush up on my my knowledge before I join the class. If there's any questions, please do ask. Yes, I just check on the chat group. Okay, thank you very much, everyone, for participating in the Srimad Bhagavatam class, and I pray that you have a wonderful week full of spiritual activities. Hare Krishna. Vancha
Thank you very much,
Gopa
Krishna Govinda.
Tarubhasha
Yeah,
Kripa
Kripa
Sindhubhya Cha
Sindhu.
Patitana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Thank you very
Hare
much.
Krishna.
Thank you very much,
Srila
Prabhu. Thank
Prabhupada
you.
ki jai. Hare Krishna,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Thank
Hare
you.
Thank you, everybody. Krishna.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna.
Govinda Prabhu. Yeah. You're such a wonderful pujari. You got all the purification, and what you have explained, it was very, very nice. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Palika Mataji, and thank you for always participating and giving me encouragement, and also giving more valuable instructions in the class. It really helps. And I believe that you should give class yourself, Palika Mataji.
I don't think I have confidence.
You are more than confident. You're a great servant of the Supreme Lord.
You are the one who is so wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Wonderful class. Thank you.